Greetings loyal subscribers and honoured guests. It's time once again for me to do an on-camera video, which I haven't done for a while. And as you can see from the title, I have decided to do the Summer Backlog challenge again for this year. And for this year, I've decided that all 10 games are going to be on the Nintendo Switch. This is because well, a couple of reasons. I've really been getting into the Switch this year more than any other year, because I've picked up a Switch OLED finally, and before having one of those, I was really a docked only Switch player. I would seldom take it outside on my commute or anything, because to be honest with you, it's a bit bulky. So it's a pain to lug around, and also I don't like the controls on the Joy-Cons. The sticks are too stubby and prone to drift, as you probably are well aware, and it doesn't have a proper D-pad. And then yeah, I've got a Switch OLED, so it's a much brighter screen. Really nice. And the other thing I did is I bought some Nixie Joy-Cons, which are bigger, more comfortable, have proper sticks and a proper D-pad. So yeah, it's a lot more comfortable. And in addition to that, I got a Nixie case to put everything in, which is really large, but I have got a large laptop bag for work, so it's got enough room in it. It makes it quite heavy, including all my stuff for work on my laptop, but yeah, I've been enjoying playing that on my commute. So I've picked out 10 games, as I normally do. And if you're not familiar with the Summer Backlog Challenge, for the duration of summer, which officially is June 21st to September 23rd, I believe, the goal is to complete 5 out of these 10 games as a minimum, and any that I do complete will be reviewed on the channel. So it encourages me to play through some games, and it also gives you some content as well. So I've done this twice. I think the first time I only got through 3 games, which was probably a result of me picking 2 games that were just too long, too many that were too long. The second time I did it, I did much better. I got the 5 out of 10, but I've never managed to go past 5. So this year I'd like to do the 5 minimum, but maybe knock out 1 or 2 more as well. But there's no reason that you can't just finish all 10 outside of the scope of the summer. It's not a hard and fast rule that you have to stop playing them and give them up as soon as summer's over. No, it's just an encouraging thing and a community thing that somebody started. I forget exactly who, but quite a few people do this in the summer months now. I've skipped it for a few years because it does require a little bit of planning, and you have to spend time on these games versus other ones, so to get these done. So but this year I've chosen 10 Switch games because there's I've also really started buying the super rare games releases as they come out, and there's quite a few interesting games, and a lot of them are on the shorter side, so you'll see several of those in this video. Checking to see what the cat's doing. He's licking his tail at the moment. Alright. So without further ado, let's get started going through the 10 games that I have picked. So first up is a game called Dredge, which I got from CEX. I traded something in and found this on their website, which I was very pleased about because it had literally only just come out a few weeks ago, I think. So yes, what Dredge is on the surface is a fishing game where a small village has put out a job posting for a fisherman So you go out there, and the first thing you do is crash your existing boat on the rocks and end up in debt to the mayor, who gives you a replacement boat, which is quite small, can't go very far, but you have to then earn money to pay him back. But if you go below the surface a little bit, then you find out that this is a sort of Cthulhu horror game. There's lots of references to the Deep Ones and Elder Gods, and there's all sorts of weird stuff going on with the fish. You'll sometimes pull up abomination fish that have got 3 eyes or just look really messed up, and for some reason the fishmonger gets really excited if you give him one of those and locks his door for a few days, and you can't sell any fish. And there's also a mechanic, sort of an insanity mechanic, where if you stay out on your boat after dark for too long, then you start to lose your mind. So, like other sort of Cthulhu-inspired games, there is a sanity mechanic, like Eternal Darkness, or even the official Cthulhu games. So it's quite a hot game at the moment. Lots of people are talking about it on Twitch and on YouTube, but I'm looking forward to playing it. Actually, I'm glad I've managed to find a physical copy of that. So let's move on to game number 2 now. Game number 2 is one of the super rare releases that I was talking about, and it's called Islets. I haven't even got around to unwrapping the cellophane on this one, but this one describes itself as a surprisingly wholesome Metroidvania, and my history with Metroidvanias hasn't been great, especially 2D ones. I usually get lost and frustrated and don't finish them, so it'll be interesting to see how I get on with this one, because this is sort of positions itself a little bit as being ideal for people who aren't very good, or their first Metroidvania maybe. And you can take control of this. I think it's supposed to be a mouse, and as you can see, it's got a really lovely cartoon art style. So so I am looking forward to giving this one a go, and hopefully I can beat it. Really, the only Metroid style game I've ever finished is Metroid Prime, and that's 3D. For some reason, my brain just works better in a 3D space than a 2D one. Anyway, let's move on to the next game. Now, this one I really am looking forward to playing, and it might be the first one that I do, because I've heard it's only a 4 or 5 hour game, and it's called The Spirit and the Mouse. And this reminds me a little bit of Stray, except you play as a mouse instead of a cat. And not long into the game, your mouse gets struck with lightning, and sort of partners up with the spirit of lightning, and it's your task to go around this little quaint French village and restore the happiness to the humans living there. And to do there, you have to find these little lightning creatures called kiblins and return them to the kiblin boxes, which are like generators, really. And returning each one involves you doing some kind of quest, usually. And there's also a lot of collectibles, like there's blue light bulbs that are scattered around the whole town that you have to find, and I think they buy you cosmetics, so they're not essential, but there's also little bolts of lightning which are more essential, because you have to spend those to power up the Kiblin boxes. Yeah, it's a really good game from what I've seen of it so far, so I'll probably be playing that one first, so look out for that one. And after that we have Lost in Play, which might be the second game that I knock out, because it's another short one and another one that I'm very interested in, and it's once again it's a super rare release, and this one is a cartoony, humorous point-and-click adventure game, basically, about a brother and sister who are getting lost in their imagination and making up all sorts of fantastical worlds and playing together. So, as you can see, it looks really, really good. And sometimes what you see in trailers doesn't really match up to what the Switch version is like, because they have to compromise on visuals to get the game running. But no, this really does look this good on the Switch, which is good. And it reminds me of the sort of adventure games from Amanita Design, like Tuchel or Botanicula or Machinarium. So yeah, it's got that same sort of puzzles. They're not too difficult. They're fairly intuitive to solve, and there's even a hint system. So getting stuck isn't really an issue. So yeah, that might be an early one that I tackle as well. So let's move on to the next one. Now we have more of a mainstream and a longer game, which is Ys 8 Lacrimosa of Dana. A few months ago I played through Trials of Mana, the 3D remake, and really, really enjoyed it. So that made me want to play more action RPGs in a similar style on the Switch. So I've decided to try and finally knock Ys 8 off my backlog, because I've had the PS4 version for a while digitally, but I've decided to get the Switch version physically, so that I can play it on my OLED wherever and whenever. It doesn't quite run as nicely as the PS4 version, I would have to say, because the graphics are a little bit fuzzier and there's a bit of pop in sometimes, but for the most part it looks pretty decent. And this one, you play as Adol Kristin, as you usually do in Ys games, but you're shipwrecked on an island, and you have to go and find all the other castaways that are on the island with you, and there's a story about this mysterious girl called Dana that goes on in parallel. So yes, that's that one. So moving on. Next is another super rare game which I've spoken about before, actually, because I did a First Look Fridays about this, and it's Heaven Dust. And there's two games in here, but I've just chosen the first one for Summer Backlog Challenge, and it's another 4 or 5 hour game. And what this essentially is the first Resident Evil game, but from a sort of isometric top-down perspective. And from what I've played of it, it is really cool. It does sort of rely on password puzzles quite heavily from what I've checked out. I've only played the first hour, and I think it's another fairly brief 4 or 5 hour game. So I've chosen these shorter games on purpose to make sure that I can actually get through a minimum of 5, but yeah, I do want to try and do more than that. So yeah, this is if you like Resident Evil games and you like indie games, this is an interesting mashup of both of those types. So yeah, I shall play some more of that. Next is Poi Explorer Edition, which is a traditional 3D platformer. I do really enjoy games like this. I was a big fan of stuff like Banjo-Kazooie and of course the Ratchet and Clank and other Jak and Daxter games of that nature. So this is a similar sort of game with very bright cartoony visuals. Not the most detailed graphics I've ever seen. In fact, in some ways it looks like somebody's made this in Dreams, which is a compliment to Dreams, really, because you can do some amazing stuff with it. But anyway, this kind of adopts the sort of structure of a Super Mario 64, where you've got various themed hub worlds, and then you have to do separate challenges to earn these medals, and the more medals you earn, the more environments you get access to. Yeah, and it's a really fun game from what I've experienced of it so far. So yeah, I'll probably that'll probably be amongst the 5 that I do get through, I would imagine. So anyway, moving on. This one is called Demon Throttle, and I'm a little bit unsure about this one because I'm not sure you can actually technically finish it. And as you can see on the screen, it's a very retro style, sort of NES quality graphics, and it's a vertical shooter of a sort, but it's also got sort of roguelike elements to it. So each time you play through it, things change. I think like boss encounters and level designs slightly change. So I'm not actually sure you can finish it. You can finish a run for sure, but then you unlock more things and the levels change up. So, but I might, I might play that for a while. Maybe if there's no real ending to it, then I shall just sort of set an hour goal to put into it and review it after that. But we'll see. It might be a difficult game, and I might struggle with it. So we'll have to see how I get on with it. The penultimate game is one I've had for a while, and that's partly why I've chosen it. It's Dragon Quest Treasures. I'm a big fan of the Dragon Quest games, and this is a spin-off starring I can't remember his name now, Eric from Dragon Quest XI, and his sister. And this is more of a sort of simplified action RPG style game, where you do partner up with monsters and then use their abilities to access areas and find treasure. So yeah, it's not in the same league as one of the mainline Dragon Quest games, I don't think, but it still looks like a lot of fun. And so yeah, I might get around to this, but this is fairly low down on my priority list really for the 10. It might just be a longer term game that I want to get to at some point this year. But it's got more of a simple art style than the high budget Dragon Quest games, that's for sure. But it looks pretty nice regardless, and these sort of bright coloured cartoon games are really look very good on the Switch OLED. So let's go to the final game then. And the final game is another longer one, and it's Bayonetta Origins, Cereza and the Lost Demon. And I was really surprised by this game actually. I must admit I have checked it out for a few hours already, which is why it's on this list, because I'm not really a fan of the main Bayonetta series. They're a bit too sort of hardcore, although you can dial down the difficulty and play them just as a more casual player, I suppose. But this is a lot more my style. It's more of a traditional RPG / puzzle game, and mechanically it reminds me a little bit of a game called Brothers Two Sons or something, where you controlled two characters separately using the two sticks, and you do that in this. You get your demon, which is a stuffed cat called Cheshire, obviously inspired by Alice in Wonderland, and you control him by moving the right stick while you control Bayonetta or Cereza with the left stick. And the art style is really gorgeous, and I just like the sort of fairy tale trappings of this game and the way the story is told. So this is another one that's fairly low down on the priority list, I have to say. But yeah, it might just be another one that I'd want to try and get to this year. That should be more doable if I split my time on the Switch between commuting and actually playing at home. But of course, commuting I can't really capture anything, so I want to put in some hours at home so I can capture footage of these games and do a review at the end. But anyway, those are the 10 games. Let me switch back to the big camera for a second and sign off. Yeah, so anyway, as I said at the top of the video, there's actually a little while before the summer season starts officially for these games. It's not till June the 21st, but I wanted to get the 10 games figured out that I want to play. So I'm going to try and resist the temptation to start any of these before that kick-off date, because that would be cheating in a way. But on top of all that, I am currently playing through Xenoblade Chronicles 2, because another one of my goals for this year was to get all of the Xenoblade Chronicles series finished. After I finished 3, I went back and I've finished 1 and Future Connected. Now I'm doing 2, and then I'll move to Torna, and then I'll do Future Redeemed, and then I'll do Chronicles X, and yeah, and that'll be all of that series done finally for now until they release another one. But anyway, that's not really relevant to Summer Backlog Challenge, but yeah, it will keep me busy for the month until this challenge starts. So yeah, is anyone out there going to take up this challenge this year? And if so, what games are you thinking of playing? I know one other person who normally does this, well, not every year like me, but because like I said, it is quite a commitment. But anyway, I shall stop the video there because it's getting on for almost half an hour now. So I'll let you go. I'll just say once again, thank you for watching if you have, and if you enjoy this sort of stuff, then be sure to like and comment, and maybe share with your friends. And I'll see you on the next video, which will be another episode of Cover Tape Chaos. That's next Wednesday. And then I shall be doing something else non-Commodore related. I have got a episode of Budget Bangers in the works, because I did one episode of that as a pilot sort of almost a year ago, and I haven't done any more. But yeah, I did quite like the way that video turned out, and there's lots of cheap games that are under a tenner on the sort of PS4, Xbox One, PS5, Series X generation. A lot of the newer PS5 games are already going down in price quite a bit, so there's plenty of candidates for episodes of Budget Bangers, so expect to see more of those in the future. But otherwise, I shall say goodbye now. So see you on the next one, and in the meantime, take care.